So the Preservative Party is a group of young people in Leeds who work with Leeds City Museum.
Who are just kind of interested in museums and heritage.
I've always been interested in history ever since I was really young. History's always been my favourite subject.
Mainly socialising with people and making new friends and learning new ideas and hearing other people's opinions and stuff, and it's really interesting and satisfying.
In 2020, the Preservative Party were locked down and frustrated. They didn't see themselves reflected in mainstream museums, so they started asking questions. This is the story about how they transformed these conversations into a huge project and exhibition that would uncover and tell overlooked histories of their city.
The thing we've been working on is curating an exhibition called Overlooked, where we've been aiming to tell stories that haven't been traditionally told in museum spaces.
Touching on themes of trauma, resilience, discrimination, and unity, Overlooked seeks to amplify unheard voices.
It is kind of a difficult process, we have to choose whose story deserves to be told.
Taking other people's thoughts, feelings and opinions into consideration, exhibitions don't do that. But we as a group at least try to care. Even if we couldn't understand, even if we couldn't relate, we listened.
That's something that Overlooked has really tried to encapsulate, is a want to tell more inclusive histories of the city of Leeds and its people.
The goal of the exhibition was to ensure that everyone could see themselves in the museum.
Stories exploring ancient slavery, women in industry, child labour, LGBT+ identity, neurodivergence, autism, accessibility, and the deaf community.
I focused on David Olawale because there's not actually a lot of information on him.
We were delighted when the young people who put this exhibition together said that they wanted to feature David Olawale as one of the overlooked people of Leeds' recent past. And we supplied various things as requested, including the maquette of the hibiscus rising sculpture that Yinka Shonibari is making in memory of David Olawale. And we supplied all kinds of paraphernalia and supported the team in gathering other things from the National Records Office and so on.
Well, it was a lot of looking through newspaper articles and finally getting access to his medical records from when he was in High Roads and Menston. Obviously, we couldn't get all of it. Some of the dates are still completely different. I don't think we actually know his actual age, which, considering it's not actually that far in the past, it's actually quite scary and sad to think about, because this is only the 60s. Surely somebody who was alive and died in the 60s, we should know their basic information.
Unbeknown to me until I was 18, 19 years old, my father had kept a scrapbook of newspaper cuttings, key parts of the David Olawale case, and of some letters and cards that he'd received from all across the world in 1970, 1971, when all of this was happening. And it was something that he'd compiled, put together, made handwritten notes against, and then just put to one side. And only when he got ill and was at end of life did he introduce me to the scrapbook and hand it over to me. And I was really honoured and privileged to be able to provide it for the Overlooked exhibition and for it to be seen by other people.
I worked on the William and Ellen Craft section of it. William and Ellen Craft were fugitive slaves. In order to escape slavery, Ellen had to disguise as a slave owner, and William had to pass as her slave.
So I worked on about homelessness in Leeds, mainly focusing on age 16 to 24. For example, me, I'm in an emergency accommodation. That is classed as a form of still being homelessness.
This is my blog called Waiting for the Bus. It explains how we get a fairly poor deal on the bus passes within Leeds and West Yorkshire, really. I was a part of the older people group that contributed to the display about the older people. My blog was on display there with a QR code for people to scan it if they needed.
Somebody suggested that I should perhaps provide some sort of toilet or whatever, and I thought, how am I going to do that? Then I came up with this idea of actually making a model sort of good toilet. I just purchased some little toy toilets, like for a doll's house, and stuck it all together and made it look like a toilet, but then put signs up to say the sort of things that we like as older people. So that was my little contribution. As far as older people are concerned, I think it was important that we were represented in the Overlooked exhibition, because I do think older people are overlooked.
Hi, I'm Luna. I'm a trans historian based out of Leeds. My contribution to the Overlooked exhibition was my zine on the Gallus of Catterick, which was in relation to the coins of Elagabalus and Sybil in the Leeds collection. It's really important to tell the stories of ancient trans people, because we do get seen as a modern thing. You know, we didn't exist before 2015 apparently. So the work that I'm doing, looking at historical trans women such as the Gallus of Catterick, who, you know, is undeniably trans. You know, there is no other interpretation of that. It's really important work and really important for people to see, especially for young people to be able to see at the moment in the UK.
The group really want to see themselves represented in museum collections and where this project has stemmed from.
We designed the whole thing with accessibility in mind, knowing that it was going to be open for everyone.
I am a later diagnosed autistic person, and I'm also very openly queer, and I have been through a lot of educational processes and work processes as a person who has been later diagnosed with autism. I think it's really relevant to talk about autistic history. A lot of people don't know a lot about people who are autistic, or they only know about people who are considered to be autistic superheroes, and people like Nikola Tesla and Einstein, and people who we would look back and think are autistic. I think it's important for autistic people's voices to be found within museums and galleries, because there's a lot of great information and perspectives that autistic people can bring to the heritage sector. And to look at the video that was made about stimming, which was really awesome. I was a person who for a really long time tried to control my stimming and didn't stim in a way that was particularly open. And to see people being introduced to the first time for what it was like to stim and what stimming looks like was amazing.
I think it's a lot easier for a lot of people, I know that it is for me, to have something on a badge that maybe if you need to you could reference, rather than saying I am autistic and I don't want to make eye contact, or I have ADHD, I might interrupt you. I'm Alice Wood and I run Doodle People, which is a business which makes kind of communicative and representative apparel to give people information at a glance that you might not want to espouse immediately in conversation. And it's kind of like social and public transport aids in a way. It was really cool. My husband took some pictures of me like just grinning ear to ear next to the badges.
I'm Soraya. I'm a neurodivergent creative and advocate. I worked on a zine as part of Overlook on neurodiverse terminology and language. I want to share like a quote by Judy Singer, who kind of coined the term neurodiverse. She said it describes the limitless variability of human cognition and the uniqueness of each human mind. I think a lot of people use the terminology and they're well-meaning, but they're not exactly correct. And I think to begin shifting perspectives. We need to speak about people in the way that's supportive to them.
I was very emotional the first time I saw Overlooked. Admittedly, I've had some personal work with the group, the Press Party. I was an ex-member of the Press Party and have come through the service myself and have done a lot of work with the group. And upon seeing it for the first time, it was very overwhelming in a really good way.
When we were installing the exhibition in January, honestly, I just found it fun. It was cool to come to Leeds and help paint the walls and stuff, and watch the space like slowly transform into all this.
And I feel like we look at things that other people don't. All the stuff that we've done is like, we've decided to do that. We're not influenced by something else. I feel like accomplished more, I guess, because it's like, that's what I did, that's what I've put up there, but also I've gained the knowledge. I'm not just giving the knowledge to other people, I've actually learned something myself.
Loved it, having my name on there and that helping people, for example, the referrals, like I've done QR codes, which have like got my blogs on there, I've done, and a QR code to people where they can get help for homelessness as well.
I'm quite proud to be a Leeds lad, but there were stories in there that I didn't know about, that I was fascinated to learn about. And I think with any historical exhibition, you can judge its value by legacy. And what legacy will that create by bringing history to modern times and then going forward? And Overlooked did exactly that. By using some of Leeds' famous historical events that shone a light on social issues today.